I'm going to show you images, if you've just tuned in, viewer, that show you the battlefield where the blood flowed on Monday night. This is the Galwan Valley and the mouth of the Galwan River, where at least 20 Indian Army personnel were killed in action in one of the bloodiest, most brutal hand-to-hand combat episodes that has ever been seen between two nuclear neighbors. India today has exclusively accessed satellite images of the Galwan Valley bloodshed, the spot where India and China engaged in their bloody face-off. And I also want to point you to the right-hand side of your screen for a moment. India today has the names of the 20 heroes who were killed in action, and we are putting out all their names here first. We salute them. We offer our deepest condolences to their families. Those are the names on the right-hand side of your screen. So while we show you the battlefield where they fought to the death against a treacherous Chinese, please remember all of their names today as you watch our coverage, ladies and gentlemen. Now, keep those heroes in your minds and follow every word I'm telling you about these images. Take a very close look at them. These are from Planet Labs. India Today's Ankit Kumar has accessed these pictures more than 24 hours before anyone else. These are pictures from yesterday. These are pictures from the 16th of June, just a few hours after the carnage took place in the Galwan Valley. This is the very area, very close to where it actually happened, capturing in stunning detail the truth of China's treachery. They had no plans to disengage, you see. You're wondering what those red circles are? The yellow swath there, those are all the camps by the Chinese. The first visual detail of where the Indian and Chinese troops brawled to the death. These images show how, despite being massively outnumbered by Chinese troops and losing at least 20 men, the Indian side has held its ground and blocked Chinese troops from intruding further. They've already intruded quite a bit. At least 200 military vehicles are seen on the ground on the Chinese side. Despite a clear promise that was made on the 6th of June between lieutenant generals to disengage. The images prove that the Indian troops are holding their position strongly, and it also proves China's direct treachery. They promised over a handshake to disengage. They've done nothing of the sort. I want to take you straight to Leh, Ladakh, where India today's Gaurav Sawant is live with us. He's just, maybe about 100 kilometers away from the actual battle zone in the Galwan Valley where this has happened. Gaurav, one of the first reporters, he reported from Kargil 20 years ago, and he's reporting from this history-making episode in Ladakh today. Gaurav, thanks for being with me. You're in Ladakh already. I imagine that the Indian Army is going to be very circumspect today. They've just released the names of the 20 heroes who, fought to the death against a very treacherous Chinese. What are you picking up on the ground, Gaurav? We understand that there might be some talks today as well. What are you picking up?
There will be talks today, Shiv. There will be talks at the level of the brigade commanders. But India today has exposed the Chinese treachery, the Chinese deceit. Shiv, I'm not far from the Leh airport. This is where the Indian Air Force has flown sorties as a mark of tribute to our 20 fallen braves. They're also carrying out combat air patrols because the Chinese, as we can see from these images, just cannot be trusted. Shiv, this is a turning point in India-China relations, perhaps relations at their lowest after the 1962 war, where the Chinese had stabbed us in the back the first time. As these images show, they've stabbed us in the back again. Shiv, when the two co-commanders were talking about disengaging, India was honest about it. India was disengaging. The Chinese pretended to disengage, and as these images show, they came back in larger numbers to take control of more territory. Worse, there are now more details, Shiv, about the Chinese attack on our soldiers. Colonel Babu and the soldiers of the 16th Battalion of the Bihar Regiment, they were verifying the withdrawal of the Chinese, and the Chinese attacked the verification team. Another team came in and they launched a very vicious, murderous attack at a time that they were claiming that they are coming with a clean hand and that they are disengaging. And they launched a massive attack on our people. Of course, no weapons were fired is what the army says. But what happened, as you've reported, Shiv, they were carrying clubs with barbed wires. They were carrying nail-studded clubs. And the vicious attack they launched on our people, while we were helping, incidentally, Shiv, we were still helping their people who had fallen down in the water, and they were attacking our people even at that point of time. So this is the level of the Chinese treachery, and now the Chinese are claiming the Galwan River Valley as their region. They're saying this is their region. It just exposes the Chinese completely, Shiv.
Completely exposes the Chinese, also establishes, not only that they violated what they had agreed upon, but the possibility that they were actually increasing their presence in the Galwan Valley, even while shaking hands over, the agreement to disengage from the Galwan Valley. They've escalated it even further by claiming the entire Galwan Valley. That's the message that's gone out now. Gaurav, stay with me. I want to bring in our National Affairs editor, Rahul Srivastav, as well. Rahul, these images providing the first visual element to a situation that simply cannot be overstated. This has changed over half a century of history between both countries. I imagine policy-wise there is going to be a great deal of digesting going on from everyone, because this is a dispute that is older than many of the people's taking the decisions in the government right now. But what are you hearing? The Prime Minister has called an all-party meet. That itself signals that far from being business as usual, something very different has to happen now.
One thing is very clear. I've been speaking to top sources in the government over the last almost 1 month. And the indication is that nowhere in the government there is a view that this is a minor attempt by the Chinese to create a flashpoint at the border. Somewhere the government of India is extremely aware that this is serious. The Chinese are in for serious trouble in the region. Their enforcement, they're pitching the tents, as Gaurav has been explaining, is a very serious attempt by the Chinese. And that is why if one says that there is a sense of surprise, the government is not surprised. But the fact remains that if you noticed throughout the history, whenever there has been a major trouble with the neighbor, the government of the day has tried to ensure that there should be a sense of the nation, a consensus among political parties which should emerge. And when the government finds at a time when China is flexing its extremely hostile muscle, at that time the government of India does need a certain amount of political demographic backing. And what best than all political parties coming together? The government of India has done it in 1990s, in early 2000, when it came to Pakistan and Jammu and Kashmir, to create a sense of the nation. The Prime Minister will like to take whatever is happening vis-a-vis China to the opposition parties and try to rally around all political forces. We have seen a lot of political sniping happening. That's okay. But when it comes to India, its sovereign territories, and the land that India's borders are demarcated, that's where no political party will like to have any differences on. And also at a time, Shiv, very importantly, when China is carrying out a very strong global campaign to present its side of the story, and consensus, a political national sense of the day will be a huge arming the government to take the India story as far as the global platforms and forums are concerned. And that is why this meeting called by the Prime Minister of opposition parties is very important. Shiv, what we can say now that till now the government of India was not getting provoked into a reaction, but now an attempt is on to show that it cannot be business as usual at a time when China maintains hostilities on the border. We are told that economic crackdown is coming. Several projects in which Chinese stakes are there are going to be studied. Very importantly, the Delhi-Meerut corridor, in which a Chinese company had become L1, means won the financial bid, is going to be studied, likely to be scrapped as demanded by the public. Importantly, all the guidelines for tenders in infrastructure projects, which used to actually benefit Chinese companies because they have vast global experiences, They are going to be studied. They are going to be changed so that the Indian players can benefit from them instead of the Chinese. So what one can say that India is trying to say that business cannot exist with hostile borders.
Business cannot exist with hostile borders, and in so many ways things have escalated so way beyond just this border dispute, because China's treachery, despite the multiple level of talks, has established, it has shown China's cards in many ways. And right now, even though the very, very immediate priority is to ensure that there is no further escalation in any of the other sensitive points, not just in Ladakh, but also in Uttarakhand, Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, but to ensure that any provocation coming from the Chinese, and there will be, let's make no mistake, there will be provocations from the Chinese, does not become this kind of a conflagration. China can afford to lose its troops, I'm sure. It's an authoritarian country. India simply cannot. It's an unacceptable level of loss. Yesterday morning, I'll be very honest with you, when there were 3, when the body count was 3, including a colonel, that number itself was unacceptable. So you can imagine what the number of 20, and that number could rise, is actually doing as far as sentiment is concerned. I want to tell you that the Indian Army is highly professional. Don't worry about their morale. They are extremely disciplined, extremely motivated, and they will do what they are required to do and follow orders. But please never, ever, ever forget that the Indian Army is comprised of humans with families. They deployed there. The 20 men whose names you see on your screen all had families. They came from different parts of the country, north, south, east, west. And they are humans. They're not robots. They're not robo-soldiers. They are human beings. They're Indians, and they were fighting a very treacherous enemy. I don't want to over-sentimentalize this, but let's always keep that in our minds as we report this story. 20 families are grieving today. There is no bigger story than that. I also want to welcome onto our coverage today Major General Ashwini Sivach. Also with us is former Northern Army Commander Lieutenant General B.S. Jaswal. General Jaswal, to you first. We understand that talks are continuing between both sides. An all-party meeting has been called by Prime Minister Modi. What is your view, sir? You know, quote-unquote disengagement has happened from the patrol point where this horrifying clash took place on Monday night. What next in your view, sir?
You see, you have to continue talks. If you want to disengage and de-escalate, the process of talks at the military level as also at the diplomatic level. How much China shows genuineness is a big question mark. Let me tell you, like what happened yesterday, last night. This was the point skirmish where our people were being killed ruthlessly, like a gang war. I think there we could have used a weapon to save, because these people have intruded. There's no dispute about the LAC in the Galwan Valley. They've intruded 5 kilometers. This is not a transgression. We should have used over there to save our men and justify it. But the fear that I carry is that had we done this, they will say, okay, kar lo jo karna, hum baith gaye idhar. This is our area. And now they are actually claiming this particular area. So first, we must engage in talks, disengage, and thereafter go ahead for de-escalation. Because the escalatory dynamics over here in this area is still, it still rests with the Chinese. We have got mirror deployment. So the methodology of a fight which is going there is going to be totally different. Who's drawing whom into a battle of attrition? Is he making us attack to evict him, or is he going to attack us to evict us? So the dynamics has to be seen. What exactly? And this, I feel very strongly, was a tester of a reaction in a particular area for what they want to do in places like Arunachal or whatever it is.
Gaurav Sawant is India Today's senior executive editor, and he's in Leh, Ladakh. One of the first journalists to land there. He reported there, during the standoff as well last month, and he's back in Leh, under very, very disturbing conditions as far as the India-China border is concerned. Gaurav stands, not very far. He's in Leh, couple of 100 kilometers away from the point where this clash has taken place. Gaurav, you told us about the talks that are taking place today. Major generals from both sides will be meeting from the, from the Trishul division, and a major general from the Chinese side will be meeting near Patrol Point 14. But what is the mood on the ground, Gaurav? Lots of talk about, what the morale of troops is. I know the Indian Army is highly professional. They'll fight in any conditions they want. But what is the sentiment, the mood on the ground? This is a treacherous enemy that has really shown its true intent. What is the mood on the ground?
Shiv, the army on ground, there's a quiet resolve. There is a firm resolve that the sanctity of the line of actual control will be restored, will be maintained, and with interest, should push come to shove, should clearance come from the political leadership. But there's also that thought that this has to be a comprehensive national response. Armies clash only when all other instruments of the state fail. There is a belief that whether it's diplomatically or through other means, there will be a resolution. And when you look at this attrition that General Jaswal talks about, I'm not going into the number count because Chinese do not matter. Our boys, whether one makes the supreme sacrifice or 20 or God forbid more, every life matters, as you and I well know. You and I are civilians. We could not eat food last night. You can imagine the pain in the hearts of our soldiers. There is a quiet resolve. It will be avenged appropriately, but no one's looking for a war. That's point one, Shiv. Shiv, look at our deployment in this area, much stronger than the Chinese. 120 of our men not far from that place. You recall 1962 Battle of Rizangla. They were able to hold an entire brigade of the Chinese, and more than 2,000 Chinese soldiers had died in 1962 against Major Shaitan Singh and the Veerahirs of the Charlie Company of the Kumaon Regiment. So whoever occupies the higher ground stays on top, as General Jaswal and you know better, Shiv. Very clearly, we hold the higher ground in most of the areas. In some areas, Chinese have resorted to deceit. Now it remains to be seen whether you push them back or occupy ground elsewhere.
I also want to bring on to our coverage our Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan, our Defence editor Abhishek Bhalla. Gaurav continues to be with us from Leh, the first journalist there, and also to the two generals who joined me to give us